To hear this audiobook in full, please visit the first link in the description below. Thank you for your support. How the Communist Party of China manages the issue of nationality, an evolving topic. By Shi Yuan Hao, Chinese Academy of Social Sciences, Beijing, China. Translated by Xiaohua Tong. Sponsored by the Chinese Fund for the Humanities and Social Sciences. Acknowledgements. Springer and FLTRP would like to express their sincere gratitude to Xiaohua Tong, who has done a meticulous work in translating the text from Chinese to English. The full support and assistance offered by the author, Mr. Hao Shi Yuan, and his wife, Miss Fu Ying, are also highly appreciated. Chapter 1, Introduction, The World of Nationalities and the Issue of Nationalities. The further back we go into history, the more the characteristics distinguishing different peoples of the same race disappear. Frederick Ingalls, on Ireland. The national question must be viewed historically and economically. The national question is a worldwide phenomenon. V.I. Lenin, Theses for a Lecture on the National Question. Marxism-Leninism can help solve the problem of nationalities throughout the world. In China, Mao Zedong thought the integration of the theory of Marxism-Leninism with the practice of the Chinese Revolution can also help solve this problem. Deng Xiaoping, The Question of Minority Nationalities in the Southwest. Human society is a world of nationalities. A nationality is a community. It differs from a class, stratum, political party, or organization in that it is a stable social group, and it can be called a racial group. How to observe the differences and diversity of the wide world of nationalities in a scientific light, and how to solve the jumble of issues concerning nationality is one of the most complex tasks of human society. Since time immemorial, the forms of human communities have changed as social classes and states came into existence. In general, human communities have evolved through the forms of primitive hordes, clans, tribes, chiefdoms, ethnoses in ancient countries, and modern nation-states. When the form of human communities broke the barriers of kindred relations and became grounded in territorial relations, humankind embarked down the path of private ownership, differentiation of society into classes, and state rule. However, this evolution did not take place in conjunction with the progress of human society. Because of various degrees of isolation due to geographical factors and differences between the economic and social lives of different communities, when human society entered the 20th century, historical remnants of all the more primitive forms still existed and were in flux. At one end of the spectrum, some nationalities were still in the hunter-gatherer stage, while at the other end, some were exploring the mysteries of space. In this world, hunter-gatherer, nomadic herder, and agricultural societies coexisted with modern industrialized, urbanized, and informatized societies. In today's world, human communities and individuals, no matter what their stage of development, all belong to a state and to an ethnic group. These communities of ethnic groups at different historical stages of the development of human society are not considered to be superior or inferior because of their aspectual features, but there are significant differences in their economic and social development, language and culture, living habits, system of belief, folk beliefs or religions, psychological identification, and population size. However, there is a linguistic and cultural divide between them. They don't understand each other's rituals and habits, and their personal beliefs are incompatible, but they all have myths, rationality, stratagems, and inventions, and they all have dance and music, as well as joy, love, tenderness, friendship, anger, and hatred. Of course, these feelings are expressed or restrained to different degrees in different societies. They also have boundless imagination and a blend of reason and madness. The ingredients and proportions of all these factors vary considerably, and they cannot be readily isolated. Because they are all of the same human species on Earth, they together comprise the wonderful wide world of nationalities. However, in the 21st century today, ambiguities in concepts, theory, and practice in this regard have not disappeared. Science has already proven that all humans have a common origin. A common human origin means that all our ancestors originated from the same specific evolutionary branch on Earth, forest-dwelling primates living in the African tropical jungle, and that the evolution from apes to humans took place in a specific geographical environment. Life on Earth arose only once, and human beings evolved from apes only once. Therefore, no matter how complex and diverse nationalities are in human society today, they all share a common ancestor, and they all belong to the natural world, the animal kingdom, the class of mammals, the order of primates, the family hominoids, the genus Homo, and the species Homo sapiens. This is the common biological foundation of the whole human species and the common starting point for understanding it. The concept of the human species in biology is a unified concept, whether in rejection the notion of the supremacy of the white race or understanding the diversity of national culture. The human species is unified, but nationalities are diverse, and so are the cultures they create and pass on. From the evolutionary history of human society, it is not hard to see. Genuine creativity does not lead to uniformity. The cultural differences between nationalities are the result of how they understand nature in their habitat and how they use nature. For example, hunters and slash-and-burn farmers living in a mountain forest, fishermen living along rivers and the ocean, nomadic herders living on the desert grassland, and settled farmers living on the vast plains are all different human communities living in different natural environments, and their ways of life are all creations of theirs to adapt to and use the bounties of nature so they can survive and multiply. Their differences show these difficulties have been different in different peoples of the earth, and in the manner of our overcoming them lies our destination. Therefore, no matter how large or small a nationality is, or the level of its development, its creation is human creation, and this diversity of creation manifests the strong points of each nationality toward human society as a whole, and as well as the breadth and brilliance of the history of human civilization. Since the beginning of human civilization, the development of human communities has followed the trend of decreasing dispersion and increasing concentration, and has gone from the diversity of clans to their unification as tribes, from the diversity of tribes to their unification as territorial confederations of tribes, from the diversity of territorial confederations of tribes to the unification of nationalities in ancient states, and from nationalities in ancient states to union of nationalities in modern countries. This evolution progressed alongside the evolution of private property, classes, states, and capitalism, and states played an important role in it. States themselves evolved from city-states to empires to national monarchies to modern nation-states during this unification trend. States are the product of irreconcilable class differences. State rulers and the class they represent, in order to safeguard their ruling position, demand that the ruled classes obey them and acknowledge the structure of social classes in the relations of dominance. Therefore, in order to maintain the system of governance, state power reshapes the state's subjects as a whole, which is the underlying meaning of the ethno-national process of human society. This is what occurred in ancient Greece in the formulation of city-states. Just as Max Weber said, Greek phylae were at one time independent, and when they merged into a political commonwealth, city-states systematically carried out a reorganization of them, turning them into a political artifact. In fact, this is the case not only with the ancient ethnoses, but also with modern nations, with the difference between them being only that the former are still unstable and are in flux in the course of the rise and fall of states. These ethnic groups, which have different languages, territories, economic activities, cultural practices, and religious beliefs, constantly disperse and congregate and assimilate and merge due to wars, disasters, coercion, and migration. Before 1500, this kind of phenomenon already occurred to some extent between separated continents and islands, most markedly between Europe and the Americas. After 1500, as worldwide navigation developed, large-scale migration between continents occurred as a result of colonial conquest and the slave trade, including the Columbian Exchange, a widespread exchange of animals, plants, and communicable disease, and of human interbreeding, especially in the Americas, Africa, and Australia. In the course of this process, Western capitalism unleashed worldwide colonial incursions, bringing disaster to many ancient societies. In research on globalization, people generally identified the beginning of the global era as Columbus's discovery of the New World, more than 500 years ago. If we restrict our consideration to the long period of history during which the continents were isolated from each other, this viewpoint is reasonable. However, this is a history of Western capitalist countries competing in colonial expansion abroad in the wake of great geographic discoveries. The Western countries that went out into the world and launched the global era did so by means of violent conquest, wild plundering, and colonial slavery, and it was an atrocity of blood and fire that rested on the foundation of the destruction of other ancient civilizations. The discovery of gold and silver in America, the extirpation, enslavement, and entombment in mines of the aboriginal population, the beginning of the conquest and looting of the East Indies, the turning of Africa into a warren for the commercial hunting of black skins, signalized the rosy dawn of the era of capitalist production. These idyllic proceedings are the chief momenta of primitive accumulation. On their heels treads the commercial war of the European nations, with the globe for a theater. In this commercial war, once Western colonialists entered an isolated ancient society, most of the knowledge that had been accumulated over millennia was lost, and those who destroyed it were incapable of grasping it, with the result that countless tragedies occurred in which outstanding indigenous cultures perished at the hands of inferior Western culture. This kind of globalization was a unilateral invasion by Western powers and not cultural exchange. They relied on their superior ships and powerful cannons, and when they faced ancient societies or cultures, they had no interest in interpreting or acknowledging the history that represents the unity of the human race, but were obsessed only with seizing gold and becoming rich. The denial of the biological unity of the human race has been a common conception throughout human society from ancient times. Ancient people viewed outsiders as gods or devils. There are many examples of this in the histories of all nationalities and states, and it is not rare even now. It can be said that looking at people different from oneself as belonging to a different breed has occurred in all societies, Chinese and foreign, and at all times, past and present, to varying degrees. After Columbus discovered the so-called New World, white Europeans looked on black Africans as black devils. East Asians looked on Westerners as furry barbarians or foreign devils, and it was common everywhere to describe people whose appearance differed from that of one's own group in bestial terms. If in primitive societies people viewed others outside one's clan or tribe as strange, discriminated against them, and feared and demonized them to safeguard their own security, then in a class society, the imperatives of maintaining the interests of the ruling class required expanding the conception of inequality between people to races with different aspectual features, nationalities with different customs, and states with different levels of economic and social development.